Well, you've probably come to this video from the 2023 Silver Year in Review video, where I had some pretty exceptional pieces that I was able to pick up in 2023. 2023 Gold Year in Review, maybe not quite as dramatic as the Silver, frankly. I needed to take a breath anyway, but I still managed to pick up some pretty interesting things, and I'd like to share them with you in this top 5 list of my best gold pickups from 2023. My name is White Cross, and I will be your guide on this journey today. If you are one of my returning subscribers, thank you guys so much for being with me. It's hard to believe that we've come to the end of this first year of the White Cross Precious Metals and Numismatics channel, and it wouldn't have been possible without you guys. If you are coming to this channel for the first time, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the channel, become part of this community. You'll see lots of content like this. We would love to have you be part of this. And if you are new to the channel, I like to begin each of my videos with a simple disclaimer. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not trying to offer any kind of financial advice. I'm simply trying to share some of my experience having bought and sold precious metals and rare coins for the last 30 or 40 years or so. And I also like to begin my videos when I can with a definition, a concept that we can kind of work back into the body of whatever it is that we're talking about. And the concept I'd like to share with you is one that I developed maybe 15 years ago, and one that I have applied to very many aspects of my life, especially when it comes to collecting things, buying collectibles, be they precious metals, gold, silver, platinum, rare coins, or whatever else it is. And I call that concept the other. Probably not the first person to come up with this idea, but walk with me a little bit and see what you think about this. When I'm buying something at this point in my stacking career or my numismatic career, it has to be something pretty exceptional. I'd like to think that I've got a pretty good eye, so I am already looking for something that is often unusual, a little bit out of the ordinary, something that is a little bit extra special. And then I apply this concept of the other. So I'm trying to find if there is an element to this item that really pushes it over the edge. What is really truly exceptional about this piece that sets it apart from other examples that are similar of the same population? So it could be, if we're looking at coins, it could be a very old holder from a reputable third-party grader. We've talked a lot about third-party graders in 2023. The World of Coin Collecting video series has a couple of videos on third-party graders. I'd like to ask that you go back and take a look at those if you haven't seen them. I think they're pretty interesting. It could be exceptional eye appeal, something about this old bar that has beautiful tone to it, a coin that just has a little bit of pizzazz to it. It could be an exceptional price. When you get something offered to you that you think is a really, really good price, that can be the other also. It has to be kind of an objective thing. You can't rationalize yourself into the other. It really has to be a quality that other people would recognize in this piece. You can't say, well, I think I like the look of this, the obverse of this coin just a little bit, or this bar just has kind of a nice look to it. That's not really the other. That's rationalizing an excuse for having bought it. Trust me, I've done that myself a lot. But the other is really that extra special something that pushes the piece over the edge. I've got a great example of a coin that really maxes out that other philosophy, and we'll take a look at that a little bit later in the series. But this is a top five countdown of my best gold pickups for 2023. So let's get into it. And the first one is probably one of the smallest gold coins that you're likely to see anytime soon, and that's this. This is actually a set of two pieces. These are called Maximilian tokens. These are kind of part of a ceremony that takes place in much of Latin America that they call the Los Ares Matrimoniales. Sorry, my Spanish pronunciation probably suffers quite a bit. But these are really tiny gold tokens that are part of a ceremony where the bride and the groom, traditionally I believe it's the bride's family gives them to the groom's family, although there can be a little bit of a difference there. 12 of these, and the 12 are probably supposed to represent the 12 apostles, or probably possibly the 12 months of the year. And recently they've kind of added a 13th one, and that one is platinum. You can kind of guess who that is supposed to represent. But the idea is that these are the couple kind of agreeing that they are going to take care of each other's finances. I think that is a fantastic idea. And they traditionally have this gentleman on them here. I'll bring it as close as I think I can. That's Emperor Maximilian. We've talked about Maximilian before in the Stacking Mexican Silver series. He was an Archduke of Austria who was picked, hand-chosen to become the new King of Mexico in 1864. And he wound up being a little bit more liberal than the people that chose him wanted to be, and unfortunately his career ended very shortly thereafter with a bullet. But his countenance, his face there with this really iconic, great big long beard is probably why he became a popular subject for these tiny little gold tokens. It's easy to see, and these tokens are quite small. Much of Mexico, even like much of the rest of North America, and Canada in the 100 years that have passed, they weren't a particularly rich country. So these tokens really more of a ceremonial gift. They weren't supposed to represent an enormous amount of wealth, but these tokens had been originally minted probably in back when gold was relatively inexpensive. They may have given away those 1 peso gold coins. A peso gold coin, a pretty small Mexican gold coin. These are much, much smaller even still than those Mexican pesos. So I would guess that these probably became popular around the turn of the century. It's important to note that a lot of these are dated 1865, which is a restrike. They weren't really minted in 1865. You can see the person that even owned these before I did thought that the 1865 date on the back of the Maximilian token, and you can see it probably very tiny at the very bottom of this one. That's kind of an eagle on the back. You can just barely make it out. A restrike date. That date really has no importance. It's probably not authentic. So what made this exceptional? I had a business deal that came to fruition in 2023, and I've talked about it a little bit in the silver countdown video that you've probably just come from. And I was celebrating having this opportunity, and I went to a local coin dealer looking to buy a nice big chunk of gold. I tend to buy pieces that will remind me of an event. You saw that earlier this year, and we'll talk about that a little bit later in this video as well. But I went in with the intent of looking for something kind of big and dramatic. I was really hoping for a 50 peso, Mexican 50 peso, one of the largest gold coins that Mexico has ever released. I'll put a picture of one here so you can see what I'm talking about. And unfortunately, this dealer was fresh out of anything that was very large. But they did have a handful of older, small gold coins that they had tucked away a long time ago, and they let me look through them. We'll see another one of those a little bit later in this video series. So Maximilian tokens, very cute. They aren't really appropriate for stacking. They're just so small, the premiums tend to be quite high. This dealer recognized that, and they sold these to me at a very good price. The reason I'm droning on and on about these is because one of these is one that you just don't see very often, and that's the one here on the right side. I'm bringing it as close as I can. Hopefully the camera will pick it up. Do you recognize that person with a fantastic headdress there? Yeah, that's Cuauhtémoc. We talked about Cuauhtémoc quite a bit in the Stacking Mexico series. One of my all-time favorite Mexican coins, the 1947-1948 Mexican 5 peso, a great big, huge, thick, 90% silver Mexican coin, rivaling anything that the United States ever put out, and I think one of the most interesting designs. So when I saw this piece that actually had Cuauhtémoc on it, instead of that traditional Maximilian countenance with a great big funny-looking beard, and then on the back of it, that's this one here, it's an Aztec calendar, kind of a double whammy. I thought that those were really, really cool. Added those to my stack. They didn't charge me very much for these. They're not worth very much. Got home and did a little bit of research on them. I'd never seen that one with Cuauhtémoc before. And it turns out that this one, there's actually an expert in these really tiny gold coins. His name is Mike Locke, and he specializes in things like those California fractional gold pieces. We'll probably do a video on the California fractional pieces in 2024. Delightful little series full of pitfalls. So Mike Locke, one of the experts in these smaller gold coins, and he also covers these wedding tokens. That's what he calls them. Generically, we tend to call them Maximilian tokens, but since not all of them have Maximilian on them, obviously, a wedding token is probably not a bad idea to call them. He cataloged these, and he calls this one Aztec Dress Indian #1. What makes this one exceptional also is that it's signed probably by the jeweler that made these, the initials A and B on it. I don't know who that is. We probably have lost that person's name to time, but you don't often see them signed. And it actually says 22K on it. So this is purported to be, at least it's supposed to be, a 22 karat gold version of these. Now, when these first started being released, they were in a pretty high karat gold. And as time has progressed since about the turn of the century, that karat gold has gone down and down to the point where they were probably about 10 or 14 karat gold, maybe even lesser gold than that. And at that point, when gold became very valuable, they switched to being made out of silver, plated with gold. And as silver became more and more valuable, and again, these are just kind of a representative gift, they're not really supposed to be a store of value, they have become brass often, base metal that may not even be plated in gold. So this ceremony, Las Ares Matrimoniales, still goes on to this day, and these tokens are still presented. In fact, the Mexico City Mint recently started producing their own because this is still such a popular ceremony to have in these Latin American countries. But the point is that most of these that have been made in the last 30 or 40 years probably have very little, if any, gold content. This one probably dates from about the same time as the Cinco Pesos, the 5 pesos, that 1947, 1948 period. And it is probably actually 22 karat gold. So an exceptional design, it's an exceptional state of preservation. It looks like on that Sheldon grading scale, this might grade a 64, 65 even. A really beautiful piece, so tiny that it's delightful. I like having these little tiny pieces. It's kind of fun. Got a great price on it. And a word of caution, if you decide to pursue these, and I understand the appeal, they are so cute, beware that almost all of them have that 1865 date on it, restrike. That doesn't mean anything. And again, be careful of those modern produced pieces. They may have very little, if any, actual gold in them. So be careful if you decide to pursue them. Number 5, how can you, deny such a cute little piece, a fun thing to have picked up? We're going to go to the opposite side of the scale and talk about this 1922 peace dollar here. 1922 St. Gaudens $20 gold piece here. 1922, this is Philadelphia, so it's a 1922p if you're a purist. And it's a really beautiful strike, and the coin is in really beautiful condition. You can see that it's got really nice cartwheel luster to it. When I first saw this piece, it was not in this NGC, in that Numismatic Guarantee Company third-party holder slab is what we call these holders. It was actually in this piece. And that's what kind of made this one interesting to me. Somebody brought a dozen of these into a local dealer, all St. Gaudens pieces, all within the same kind of packaging here. And I hadn't seen this packaging before, really. I'd seen elements of it before. So what we have here is a Numismatic Certification Institute photo slab. And this was an early form of third-party grading. In fact, NCI was the first privately owned certification service. They followed right on the heel of Annex when the American Numismatic Association certification service first started issuing these photo certs. That's what we call them in the trade. And this dates to the late 1980s. So NCI, one of the first grading companies, the first privately owned grading company, and all of these saints that I was presented with had the same packaging, the same photo certs. They were different dates, and they had different conditions on them. You can see this photo cert actually says MS6363. This coin was graded with the obverse and the reverse, the front and the back, receiving a different grade. Some certification services used to do that way back in the day. So I sat there with my trusty loupe, and I went through all of the pieces that I had been offered, very carefully setting aside the ones that I thought were the most exceptional in terms of strike and grade. And then I kind of went through and looked at the pieces that had the lowest mintage, and I whittled that 12 down to 2 or 3 and finally bit the bullet on this one because the 1922, like this one, is a lower mintage. Right about 1922, the St. Gaudens started having a slightly higher mintage than they had. Most of the pieces up to that point were in the high 100,000 range. This piece that went up to about 1.375 million, which seems a little bit high, but most of the pieces that followed after 1922 had even higher mintages, some of them 3, 4, 5 million or so. So a relatively small mintage, a really beautiful strike, had a little bit of golden tone to it that I like that kind of suggests originality to it. So I went ahead and picked this one up. And because I like consistency, this one went off to NGC to have it graded. And lo and behold, NGC actually decided that rather than a 63, it's a 64. It's a little tiny bump in grade. I certainly wouldn't have been happy if it had come back lower. But again, I'd been able to take my loupe and sit down and kind of look over these pieces. And It's nice to have that reassurance that when I picked this piece out because I thought it was at least a 63, NGC agreed and said that it was a 64. A nice tip there. Most of the time we get a little bit anxious. We want to pull the trigger on something really quickly. Most of the time I have found that dealers don't mind if you are appreciative of the fact that you've got a nice place to sit there and look at things. If ultimately you are treating the dealer with respect and you are actually going to make that purchase, then the dealers often don't mind if you sit there and take a good 10-15 minutes to decide on a piece, especially when you're talking about something that cost a couple $1,000s. My dealer didn't mind me taking my time to pick the piece that I really wanted. And interestingly, when I got this back from NGC, I was looking at this original packaging. I am a sucker for original packaging. Unfortunately, so much original packaging for coins takes up so much space, it becomes burdensome. But I like this original holder, and I like the fact that it was in this plastic wallet. You might call this a folio or something. And inside this really nice rigid plastic case, all of the pieces in this group had been packaged the same way. And I had an opportunity just a couple of weeks ago to talk with the man who actually founded NCI back in the 1980s. He has gone on to found one of the largest auction companies in the country, that is Heritage Auctions. And I talk about Heritage a lot on this channel. I don't receive any kind of financial compensation from Heritage. They're just an auction company that I have dealt with for many years. Some of my best bullion pieces and some of my very best coins have come from Heritage Auction wins. So an organization that I have been familiar with for quite a while. The gentleman's name is Jim Halperin. And I asked him specifically if this was the way that these pieces would have come originally from NCI when they were returned to the person who submitted them or when they were purchased. And he said, no, this is a capital holder, which I already kind of suspected. Capital Holder is a very famous, popular brand of rigid holders before the invention of slabbing really took off, before these third-party graders that you see here. A very well-respected company. These materials that they use are inert, they don't interact with a coin, and they do a really good job of protecting these pieces. Capital Holder's still in existence. You can still buy them. Your local dealer probably has them. You can order directly from them, but you need to submit an order of $350 or more. So they're more interested in dealing with wholesale rather than retail. But this exact holder with this interesting gold design is actually still available on their website. I'll take a picture of it, put it right here so you can see what I'm talking about. So while the holder itself probably did go back about as old as these pieces, Mr. Halperin told me that that was not original. So the person that had sold these, or somewhere along the line, who sold them to my dealer or somebody else, had come up with the idea of putting them in these capital holders as a way to protect the coins. Glad they did. It did a really nice job of protecting that $20 gold piece. But he also said that the plastic holder, the folio, the wallet, was not original either. He said that these pieces would originally have been sent just with the photo cert and the coin in a 2x2 or a flip. That would have been it. So wonderful to have had an opportunity to speak with him directly, to have him confirm that neither this holder nor the little plastic folio were original to the set. But they do make a really nice set, and I'm going to keep them. Why not? I've got a little bit of space. When you're not talking about holding these coins in particular, you've got a nice holder. These are a compact thing compared to this entire thing. You can protect this a lot easier, and these pieces probably not quite as important anyway. But I like originality, and of course I'll keep all of that set. So number 4 on that countdown, we started with a really tiny Mexican coin. We went to a really large American US coin. Love $20 Saints, one of my all-time favorite gold pieces. A nice addition to the stack in 2023. Moving right along, number 3 on that list is the 1993 Madison commemorative $5 gold piece. I talked about the $5 gold pieces in the Rookie Gold Buyers First Purchase video, where I specifically say that these $5 commemorative pieces, this is kind of a new thing, started in the 1980s, and the U.S. Mint still puts these out today, are a really nice affordable option for people who don't have a huge budget. They are right about 1/4 ounce of pure gold. They tend to have very low premiums, and they have some benefits that really kind of add to the coin, and again, that's what we call the other, and this piece is a fantastic example of the other. So I went into a local dealer. And immediately I saw this green labeled holder. We call this an OGH, an old green holder or original green holder. The slab companies, the third-party graders, have developed different slabs over time, different holders over time. So this is a generation, that's what we call these, a generation of slabs that date back to between 1993 and 1998. Technically, this is a generation 3.1 of an OGH. So if you collect these older slabs, and hopefully you've had a chance to see some of the videos from the World of Coin Collecting series where we talk about third-party graders and the collectability of some of these older holders, that was what first caught my eye. I like these older slabs. Again, 1993 to 1998, which means that this slab and this coin inside the slab is already at least 25 years old. There's benefit to that. It caught my eye. But the thing that really caught my eye was that golden brown toning that you see. Sometimes in these OGH holders, gold coins tone just a little bit. Gold coins traditionally don't tone. They don't tone very much. Gold, a very inert element, and it tends not to tone. But again, you can see when I hold up this kind of pale yellow coin that is of the same era, same type of coin. This is a $5 commemorative also. You can see just how different that toning is. And that definitely caught my eye. Not all toning is attractive. Sometimes toning can be distracting, sometimes it can be mottled, sometimes it's just not an attractive color. But I do find that this kind of golden brown color is really exceptional. Sometimes you see these on gold rush pieces, an indication that some collectors say the coin had been stashed away in a leather tobacco pouch for 100 years. They start to take on these similar tones. This is an exceptionally toned gold coin. I like it quite a bit. That is the other also. But there is more. So this is a 1993. It's a West Point mint, which is already kind of an interesting mint. We don't see very many coins come out of West Point. But it's also an MS-70. We've talked a lot about the Sheldon scale in 2023. That is the coin grading scale that goes from 1, we call that a basal state, a coin that is almost theoretically bad condition. You can just barely tell what year and type of coin it is, all the way up to a 70. So that continuum, with 70 being an almost theoretical perfect coin. So this coin is graded a 70. That is the highest it could possibly be. That's an other too. This isn't just a bullion piece, although I paid bullion price for it. But something even more important here is that small MS next to the 70. What does that mean? That means that this is a mint state 70. This coin is a circulation strike. Now, these $5 gold pieces were never really intended for circulation, but in the world of collectibles, when it comes to modern mint pieces, the mint tends to make pieces that are proofs. Proofs have mirrored surfaces, high reflectivity. They usually are struck multiple times to bring out the detail just a little bit more. Specially made for collectors. Doesn't have to be a gold coin, can be any kind of coin, can have a proof. And again, proof is not a condition, it's a manufacturing technique. So these pieces were issued primarily in proofs, but they were also issued in uncirculated versions, entirely different manufacturing process. Most collectors seem to be drawn to proof coins, especially people that are outside of our hobby. It's kind of a weird conundrum that within our hobby, most collectors don't really collect proofs. That really seems to be something that the broader general population likes because they are so beautifully reflective and shiny, and they usually come in a little bit nicer packaging. So if this is a presentation piece or a gift to somebody, you would want it to have a little bit more extra, a little bit something special along with it. Those proofs tend to have that. But collectors know, and I mentioned in that video for the rookie gold buyers, that the uncirculated versions of these commemorative coins that started coming out in the 1980s and are still made to this day, those uncirculated versions tend to have much smaller mintages. Not all the time, but often you'll find that the proofs have a higher mintage. And that's the case with this coin. The proof coin mintage on this coin is 78,651. That's a pretty low mintage, right? Anything below 100,000 for a modern piece is a pretty low mintage. Proof, 78,651. But the uncirculated mintage, 23,266. That's it. So the uncirculated, about a third as many pieces as the proof. But more importantly, because this is a 70, and it's been graded 70, the highest possible grade by one of the most respected third-party graders out there, PCGS, PCGS has only graded a few of these. NGC, one of the second or tied for the best third-party graders up until this year, 2023, NGC has graded a total of 862 of these in MS70 condition. PCGS a total of 304. So there are fewer than 1,100 pieces that have been graded by the third-party graders to be MS70. And that's the ultimate extra. So we're talking about the others that we stack one on top of another sometimes. It's the older holder that is a rare piece. It is the fact that this coin has taken on some really exceptional toning that makes it really, really nice. It's the fact that it's a West Point mint. It's the fact that it's a mint state coin and not a proof coin. The fact that it is 70 on that scale of 1 to 70. It's the highest grade you can possibly get for a coin like this. And the fact that the mintage for the uncirculated was so much smaller than the proof, and which was already a relatively small mintage. The others stack one on top of another for this piece, and that's why this piece made it into my top list of 5 best gold pickups this year at number 3. Let me know what you think about that. I think it's a really exceptional piece, a really beautiful coin. Number 4, or as we're working our way backwards, number 2 on this list, is a really unusual piece, and hopefully you might have actually seen this piece come up recently in the recent videos where I sent big game pieces off to NGC to have them certified. So this was one of those other pieces that I bought in that selection of very small gold coins from my dealer when I was celebrating the sale of that, the conclusion of that business deal. And this is one of those coins. And this piece was originally in just a plastic 2x2 flip like one of these. And I didn't think anything of it. I'd never seen this piece before. I discounted it originally. When I looked at it, it didn't look like anything special to me. And I set it aside. But as I was going through this collection, I had money that was burning a hole in my pocket. And I got down to the end of the pieces that I had selected, and I still had a few $100s more. So I put this one on the pile anyway. And my dealer was nice enough to sell it to me at a pretty good price. I don't think I paid very much over melt for it. And that's great, because when I took it home, I realized that this is a very rare piece. I'd never seen this before because it's so rare. We talk a little bit about Tom's Law on the channel. That's the idea that for as long as you've been actively participating in the hobby, and you see something that you've never seen before, it can take you that much longer to see that piece again if you ever do. So I've been stacking for decades and I've never seen one of these before. The chances that I'll ever see another one of them again in the wild, quite small. So what this piece is kind of a token. This is a pattern piece made by a German man named Werner Graul. We talk a little bit about Werner Graul in the other videos where I send these pieces off to NGC. And he was kind of a Renaissance man, an artist in Germany. He was famous for producing some of the posters for the early movies of this period of time. He was a proponent of gold. So after gold had been removed from most of the major currencies of the world, he found himself, unfortunately, in his homeland of Germany. And if you know what happened to Germany after World War I, between the two world wars, you know that Germany suffered a ridiculous bout of inflation that led to hyperinflation, and Mr. Graul lost his entire life savings. And it didn't just happen to him once, apparently it happened to him twice. And he thought that the reason this had happened was because the average citizen no longer had the ability to buy gold. So he made it kind of a one-man journey to try to get the major economists and political advisors and monetary specialists at a whole bunch of European and Western countries to readopt some kind of a gold standard. So he made these pattern pieces out of 98% pure gold. This is called a ducat. A ducat is kind of a traditional European gold coin. I've got some examples of restrikes of ducats. We talk about those in the restrike videos for rookie gold buyers. These Austrian ducats, kind of a small, thin gold coin, but a traditional gold coin used in much of Europe, right about 3.5 grams of a high pure, carat gold. This is 98% pure gold. And he issued these pieces in half ducat sizes all the way up to 100 ducat sizes, a very large coin. but they were really just patterns. He was just trying to show people what these could possibly look like. And I think there were probably 10 or 15 coins in this series, this one featuring the Egyptian queen Nefertiti and the beautiful sculpture of hers that was found at an archaeological dig site. He was unfortunately unsuccessful. Ultimately, the powers that be decided not to pursue this. Consequently, very few of these pieces were struck, and I wouldn't be surprised that many of them had been melted even since then, because they weren't ever really monetized. This wasn't really something that was issued by a country. This was something that was issued by just a man. He just had an idea. So very few of these made, very few of them survive. I'd never seen one before applying Tom's Law. I'm glad that I really decided eventually to pick it up, because I had never seen one before, and you never know. Sometimes doing that research after the buy is okay. I sent this one off to NGC, hoping that it would come back a proof. And not only did it come back a proof, they recognized that it was a proof coin. They came back at proof 66, proofs on that same Sheldon scale of 1 to 70. So this is a relatively high grade proof. And they gave it the ultra cameo designation, and that just means that these fields are really nicely reflective. You can see it's got a little bit of haze on it, but they're kind of a mirror-like finish, and that's what traditional proofs are like. Sometimes proofs can have different surfaces. That mirrored proof is kind of the standard traditional proof. A very unusual piece. Does that mean it's valuable? Not necessarily. There are so few of these out there, and that also means that sometimes that supply and demand says that if there are not very many pieces out there, as kind of a strange turn of events, there are probably not that many people that collect them. So what's it worth? It's hard to say. So few of them out there that there just aren't even any records of sales of them. And I think that this is probably now one of the highest graded pieces, but that doesn't mean that there are other pieces out there that haven't been graded yet that could come back higher graded if they were submitted to a third-party grader. But for now, I'm enjoying this piece as one of, if not the highest graded series from this Magnus Oris, the Gold is Great series from this visionary from the 1960s, 1950s, and 1960s German visionary Werner Graul. An interesting piece, a fascinating piece. That's a fun piece to add to my stack for 2023. And I will be doing a video on privately minted gold pieces in 2024 also. Keep your eyes open for that. So that was number 2 on this countdown of number 5 to number 1, or number 1 to number 5, however you want to look at it. And the number 1 piece is this piece. I've talked about this piece at length. Hopefully you're not getting too sick of it. This is from another kind of pseudo-privately made series from Venezuela from 1955. A group of artists got together and decided that they would commemorate some of the indigenous First Nations chiefs of the area around Venezuela who fought against Spanish colonialism in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s. The most famous female chief, her name is Uramare. This series denominated at 60 bolivares, but there's a little bit of kind of discussion as to whether or not these were actually ever officially monetized by the Venezuelan government. My guessing is probably not. But these were 20 grams of pure gold. So this is 2/3 of an ounce of pure gold. Originally made in 1955. They restruck them in 1960. A different back on those restrikes. They also made smaller versions of them. So this is the largest version at 60 bolivares. I think they also made a 20 and a 5 bolivare. So I think it's just a really beautiful coin, right? There's just something special about that. Very few of these known to exist. They probably didn't make very many of them in the first place. About 18 coins in the series, I think, celebrating 18 different chiefs. But how many did they make, especially in this larger size? You know, if I had to guess, I would say probably fewer than 50. How many of them survive? Not very many. And this is, right now, I believe, the highest graded example of this coin. This is a slightly older NGC slab. So this is an older generation. The newer generation of slabs have those prongs on it, so you can see the edges of the coin. They hadn't quite developed that yet for this piece. So this piece is a little bit older, this slab. So I know that this coin is going to stay probably in this condition. It doesn't seem to be deteriorating. It doesn't seem to be toning. We like that sometimes in coins, and that's one of the benefits of having a piece of an older slab. You can see how it will react with that slab over time, and this piece seems to be taken care of beautifully. Gorgeous coin, a great big gold coin. One of the most interesting pieces, my number 1 for 2023. I guess there's always a couple days left in 2023, so you never know what's going to happen. When I made the silver video, I detailed a couple of pieces that had gotten away from me and a couple pieces that I had given away. And nothing really got away from me in 2023 in terms of gold coins or gold bullion. There wasn't anything that I was pursuing that I lost out on, let's put it that way. A couple of pieces that I bid on online auction, but those pieces I really kind of gave almost lowball bids, just hoping that maybe other people would overlook them. And it didn't turn out that way. So nothing that really genuinely got away from me. But I was fortunate enough to be able to give away a gold coin this year. I mentioned in this video and the silver video that this business deal had finally come to a conclusion, and it had turned out very well for me, and I felt it was important to thank those people who had also been kind of instrumental in happening and this whole deal coming together. And one of those pieces of the puzzle was a friend of mine who is in the same line of business that I am, and I was able to use him as a sounding board several times as this deal was approaching. I got his opinion, I got his kind of experience working for me, his experience working for me. He doesn't work for me. And I was able to kind of pick his brain on several of occasions, and it turns out that he was kind of guiding me in the right direction, as I knew he would. And he didn't know that this deal had come to a close. So I wanted to surprise him and thank him also. Now, he just happens to be of Italian descent, and I thought it would be neat if I could give him something that really kind of showed my appreciation and also kind of respected his ancestry as well. He's quite proud of his Italian descent, and I wanted to show my appreciation. So what I did was I looked for a piece that would kind of celebrate him and also that Italian ancestry. And I decided on a kind of an interesting coin that I was able to pick up online for not a ton of money. This is an 1882 Italian 20 lira. I'm showing you a picture of it because I already gave it to him. This was part of the Latin Monetary Union. We've talked about the Latin Monetary Union quite a bit on this channel. All the countries that kind of agreed to the Latin monetary system all put out the same size gold coin, all put out the same size silver coin, and that was an attempt to facilitate trade. So while these pieces could be denominated differently and have different subject matters on the fronts and the backs, it was really the purity and the weight of the coins that was important. Same size gold, same size silver. This is an example of a Swiss 20 franc piece from this Latin Monetary Union. And of course, you're familiar probably with the gold pieces from the Latin Monetary Union also. Exact same size, exact same weight, exact same purity. 0.1867 of a troy ounce, so just shy of a fifth of a troy ounce for these gold coins. If you like them, I also talk about those in the Rookie Gold Buyer's First Purchase series. I love these Latin Monetary Union pieces. They have beautiful designs. The gold is very well trusted. These are pieces that even the most obscure dealers in small towns seem to understand, and these trade very frequently with a very low premium too. So I went looking for a piece that reflected his Italian heritage, and I was lucky to find these pieces being offered by Apmex. 1882 Italian 20 lira, again, same size and weight as those Latin Monetary Union pieces. Apmex had a pretty good price online, but then I remembered that Apmex also has an eBay store. So I went to eBay, found their store, and sure enough, they were having a special on these coins that wasn't on their website, about $20 cheaper than they had been on their main website with free shipping. So I went ahead and snagged it, and it was just kind of advertised as a generic BU is what they called it. Often dealers that deal in wholesale quantities of pieces don't bother slabbing each individual pieces. They just say, yes, this is going to be an uncirculated piece. We're not going to tell you what the date is. We don't know. We're just grabbing them out of a big stack. We don't even know what the grade, the date, anything else is, but we're going to guarantee that it is at least uncirculated. So I know Apmex. I bought from them for years. I pulled the trigger on that piece. It arrived a couple days later, and I think this piece is really pretty. I would say that this is almost a proof-like surface. Remember that proof with those mirrored surfaces? This coin was exhibiting some of that, and I would say that it's probably a 63 in terms of grade. Thrilled with it. So what did I do? I taped it to the inside of a thank you card and sent it to him through the mail with just a regular stamp on it. That was stupid. But then again, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I just wanted to be able to surprise him, and he wasn't expecting it. And he was thrilled to get it. He was excited for me that this deal had come through, and he was really thankful of the fact that I'd been able to remember him as somebody who had been instrumental in guiding me using his advice, and he was thrilled to get it. I was very grateful that I was able to give it to him. So there we go. A top 5 countdown of my best gold finds for 2023. And you can see that I add interesting pieces. At this point in my collecting and stacking, I don't really go for those middle of the road pieces. I suppose you could say that this Saint is about the most common piece that I picked up. But even it came in an original older holder, and I was able to correspond with a man who started the company back in the 1980s. Really kind of interesting, fun year in review, 2023, the best of my gold pieces. What do you think? Is there anything else that you saw on the channel in 2023 that you would have added instead? Would you have ordered these the same way? I know that not everybody would see them in the same light, and that's kind of the nice thing about this. There's so much personal interpretation when it comes to building a stack that you can really kind of let your imagination go wild and decide what pieces are your favorite, what pieces you think are the best, what the attributes are that you like the most. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know where you fall in this continuum if you would have judged these same pieces the way that I did. If you have any questions about these pieces, by all means, leave a question down below and I'll see if I can address it. And I've been getting some great suggestions recently for video ideas. If you have an idea that you'd like to see me make, let me know, because the chances are that there's somebody else out there who has the same questions, the same interests that you do. And hopefully, if I've got the knowledge base and the examples, we can make a video for it and answer everybody's questions all at once. I'd love to be able to do that for you. If you have any ideas of what you'd like to see in 2024, if you want to tell me what you liked or didn't like in 2023, as long as it's constructive and not just mean, I would be happy to hear from you as well. Thank you, everyone, for being with me on this journey. I can't believe that we just started this in essentially early March of this year, and we've already built such a base of people who are so excited to share the same type of information that I love sharing with you. It's been very gratifying. Thank you. Have a wonderful 2024. And as always, thank you for allowing me to be a part of your journey as you go deeper into the world of coins and physical precious metals.